Thank you everyone for coming today, and welcome to John F. Stedman Memorial Fire Station. I think it's very fitting that we're here today. This fire station has been consistently ranked one of the busiest in the United States, so I'm very pleased that we could do this here today. I want to start off by thanking two people, Mayor Catherine Pugh and Delegate Mary Washington. If it wasn't for Mayor Pugh and Delegate Washington to do the enabling legislation in Annapolis, we wouldn't be here today. So, Madam Mayor, thank you very much for your leadership in the Senate. What we're here to talk about today is the Public Safety Officers Property Tax Credit. And some other folks up here are going to tell you more about the bill and what it does and why it's important. But there's a couple quick things that I want to mention. First, it's important that we have the public safety officers that are protecting our city and our citizens living in the city. Second, this legislation is going to help grow our city. These public safety officers, if we can incentivize them to live in the city, this will help contribute to our local economy. They'll be shopping at grocery stores and corner stores in our community, and that's what we want. And most importantly, it's going to help the agencies that are tasked with protecting our citizens in our city be more competitive with the surrounding counties. And that's a big part of what this is about. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Mayor, Catherine Pugh.
Let me also thank Delegate Mary Washington. I wrote this bill some years ago, and I know the firefighters are looking at me because many of them were there testifying on my behalf, as well as the police department, because we do believe that this is actually necessary. And in fact, the legislation enables every jurisdiction to do the same thing. And that's why I'm so glad, Eric, that you've taken it upon yourself to move this forward in Baltimore City. We need our police officers living in our community. We need our first responders, our firefighters living in our community. But before I continue, let us just take a moment to pause, because this is 9/11. I think about the sacrifices that so many made on behalf of all of our citizens, and the work that police officers and firefighters do every single day on behalf of our citizens. And so I am really grateful that we're doing this, but more importantly, you know, when I think about the roles and responsibilities of our first responders who've gone to other cities and states around the nation, when we think about the hurricane damages and what is happening around the nation, they're first here, and they're first helping other cities and states to overcome some of the problems that they are having. I'm excited, Commissioner, because I realize the work that all of us do together. What folks don't understand is that, you know, this is the first year. This is the first year, and I just want to talk about the police department momentarily. This is the first year that we've actually caught up with the number of police officers leaving the police department and the number of officers coming in to the police department. Not since almost, I believe it was 2004, have we had 176 individuals decide that they want to be police officers, firefighters, and first responders in our city. In fact, what we just found out is that the numbers have increased in terms of those who are now residents of our city. This particular piece of legislation will help more first responders to choose Baltimore as a place to live. And let me just say that it doesn't stop here, Eric, because what we're also working on, I've begun discussions with realtors throughout the city, because every firefighter, every police officer, you all know it, when you come out of the academy, you can't necessarily buy a home, but you can rent a piece of property in the city. And so what we're doing is we're having that conversation as well to provide breaks for those individuals who will choose not only to buy homes in the city, but to also rent in the city as well. I want to thank people like fireman John Burke. Where is he? John of Hamden. Come on, John, raise your hand. Let me tell you what John did. John has already taken advantage of this opportunity. While a fireman, a pillar of our community, he is in his own neighborhood, serving Hamden as a resident, but more importantly, a firefighter for Baltimore City. Thank you for doing that. So what that says is that we know that it works, and it can work. And so we want more presence of our first responders. We want them living in our city. They understand, just as I do, that by passing this legislation, in the city council is the ultimate testament, in my opinion, of commitment to protect our city and live daily lives here without question. We need you, our citizens need you, and more importantly, the city as a whole needs you. We need your tax dollars, we need your spending dollars, we need you to choose to not just work here, but to shop here, to live here, and to be a part of our communities. We look forward to those numbers increasing. Again, thank you, Councilman Costello. And let me also acknowledge the other folks who are here with us. Our Fire Chief, Niles Ford, our Police Commissioner, Kevin Davis. You'll hear from the President of the City Council, Jack Young, who's just been a terrific partner. Brandon Scott, Zeke Cohen, and Yitzi Schleifer, who are also here with us. And Robert Stokes, who I just left. We are doing 911 service all across the city of Baltimore. I just left Johnston Square. We're over New York Road, Carter, where 200 to 400 volunteers are working in neighborhoods and communities to fix up houses. And this is one of the things that I continue to say, Jack. We've got a number of boarded houses in this city, been boarded up for decades. Sue me, because I want them torn down, and we're going to tear them down, because we're going to rebuild neighborhoods, and those that are habitable, we're going to get neighbors rebuilding those neighborhoods and communities. We've got to make our city safe. The city charter says that the mayor has the right to protect her citizens, and I deem boarded houses in this city a safety hazard, a health hazard, and they've got to be torn down. But let's get back to the bill at hand. I'm excited. I know that Jack is excited. And so let me bring to the podium our President of City Council, my partner, Jack Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to thank Chairman Costello. When he called me and said he wanted to do this, I said, great, make sure I'm a co-sponsor. I just want to thank him for his foresight. This bill was in the council in the last term, died in committee, and Councilman Costello kept it on the radar screen and made sure he introduced it. And it's ironic he introduced it on today, September 11th. You know, when a lot of our firefighters, our police officers lost their lives in that tragic 911 incident. I want to also recognize my council colleagues too. Councilman Stokes, Councilman Costello, Councilman Zeke Cohen, Councilman Brandon Scott, and Councilman Schleifer. Thank you all for being here. You know, we have a lot of our officers that do live in the city of Baltimore, and we want to thank them and want them to encourage more officers to look to buy homes in Baltimore City. Our city is a great city. We have some issues, but if we have our first responders, our police department actually living in the city, we can do a lot to change the culture of the city of Baltimore. And this is just a first step. We're looking at other things that we can do to entice our public safety officers to move into the city of Baltimore. And again, I want to thank Chairman Costello for having the foresight to keep his eyes on this bill so we can get it passed, so we can have more officers who are interested in living in the city get these benefits to buy a home in the city of Baltimore. And again, I want to thank the mayor, who has been my partner in the fight to make Baltimore a safer city and to get more people to live and sleep and play in Baltimore. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Councilman Brandon Scott, who chairs our Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Councilman Costello. I'll be very brief. I'll be the first to say that this is an excellent idea, and it's actually a shame that the council failed to move this bill in the last term. Anyone who has this legislation and doesn't think that we should do this does not see what's happening in our city. We know that we have to fight crime in our city, and we know that anyone who lives in a neighborhood is going to take that neighborhood seriously, and they're going to make sure that that neighborhood is protected. I have the pleasure of representing a lot of law enforcement and public safety officers. Actually, Officer Gask, who is standing with us today, lives in my district, and just because she lives there, what happens in her neighborhood is not just her job, it's her life. She has a family that also lives in her neighborhood. So that's what we need throughout our city. That's how we're going to make it so that our city is a safer place. And Madam Mayor, Mr. President, council members, I think that we should continue this. Look at offering the same thing maybe for teachers so that we can continue to attract more people into the city, especially our public safety officers, because we know the job that they have at hand. They have a hard task at hand, and we know that offering incentives for them to be a part of the city, even more than they are in their jobs, is a great thing for us. So thank you, and with that, I will take my place back in line.
We do teachers already.
Thank you, Councilman Scott. I'm very grateful to have the support of Chief Ford from the Fire Department, Commissioner Davis from the Police Department, and Sheriff John Anderson for this bill, but also to have union reps here that represent the officers that are keeping our city safe every day. The IAFF 734, the IAFF 964, and FOP 3. I know we have Michael Campbell and a few others from union leadership here today, as well as Drew Vetter, the Mayor's Director of the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, and Annie Milley, the Executive Director of Live Baltimore. So next I'd like to introduce Fire Chief Niles Ford.
Good morning. First of all, let me say thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, members of City Council, for putting this type of bill forward and really committing to move forward with it. I do know that the police department and the fire department have worked very aggressively trying to recruit individuals within the city of Baltimore. And this is another tool, I believe, that will give us an opportunity to keep our local heroes, our local sheroes within the city, so the community people and the young people can still put hands on them, talk to them, and have someone to go to and someone to look up to. Not only is it a public safety, it's an extreme public safety concern for us to have as many people in the city as possible, but it's also important to us for the young people to see them. So we're very thankful for that. So thank you all very much, and we're looking forward to this moving forward.
Thank you, Chief Ford. Now I'd like to introduce Police Commissioner Kevin Davis. Commissioner, thank you very much for being here. I know you went to great lengths to make it, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman, and many thanks to Mayor Pugh again. As you heard earlier, when she was then Senator Pugh, she introduced this legislation to make this a reality today. I, of course, thank the Council President, Councilman Costello, and all the council members who join us here today. We're also joined by a special partner of the Police Department, Liz Kuntz. Liz, can you raise your hand? From Live Baltimore. You can never do enough to encourage residency, and one thing that Live Baltimore did to partner with the police department is we introduced a couple years ago a pizza in the precinct idea, where we take police trainees while they're in the academy, we put them in jeans and t-shirts and sweatshirts, and we take them out and introduce them to various parts of the city. They get to walk and talk with the community, and then they end the night in a local pizza parlor that Live Baltimore pays for, right? Say yes. Okay. Yes. So we're very excited about this. As the mayor alluded to, our total applicants, police applicants in 2017 are up 27% over last year. Our Baltimore City resident applications for 2017 are up 62% over last year. That's not by mistake. That's a lot of intentional effort. And we've hired 144 new police officers this year, 144. And like the mayor mentioned, you have to go way back to 2004 to find a year where we're bringing in more than we're losing. So it's a very, very exciting time, and I can't thank everyone enough. And I'll just say, as the oldest son of a police officer who not only served where we grew up, but was the beat cop in my neighborhood, my brothers and I really benefited sometimes from the fact that my dad was not Officer Davis, but he was Mr. Davis. He was the usher at our church. He coached my baseball team. He was in charge of the yearly parade. And he was known more as Mr. Davis than Officer Davis. And that's what we hope to do eventually as we move more police officers into the city. And there is some good news. We're up several percentage points now from where we were a year ago. So the momentum is on our side, and this bill certainly helps. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, I just want to thank everyone for being here today, especially the brave men and women who fight day in, day out to help keep our city and our citizens safe. Thank you very much.